CQ contest, CQ contest. Alpha Alpha 3 Hotel Delta contest. CQ contest, CQ contest. Alpha Alpha 3 Hotel Delta contest. CQ contest, CQ contest. Alpha Alpha 3 Hotel Delta contest. In this presentation, I'm going to focus on HF phone contesting. I'll talk about some basics that you should probably adhere to when contesting, and then I'll hone in on what I do when I'm in a contest. You'll get a brief look at my station and some of my operations, and I'll wrap up the presentation with a summary and leave time for your questions that hopefully I will be able to answer. Once you have decided on a contest that you want to work, thoroughly read through the rules. You may find that the particular contest you have chosen is not what you thought it was, and decide you don't want to participate. But if it is a contest that looks both fun and challenging to you, thoroughly reading through the rules will help you understand things like when the contest starts and stops, what the contest exchange is, what are the target stations, what are the operating classes, what are the band and time restrictions, what are the multipliers, if any, what are the penalties, and when, where, and what format you have to submit your log. When you make that decision to work a specific contest, you then want to ensure that your station equipment is in the best working order. As an example, if you have a power supply that starts to lose voltage over time, you probably should replace it before the contest. Or if you have a mic cord with a loose connection, fix it before the contest. Also remember that you will have to be logging all your contest contacts, so you want to be sure that you have logging software that will accommodate the requirements of the contest rules and allow you to log your contacts as fast as possible. If the contest rules specify that you will need the other operator's name as part of the contest exchange, but the logging software you use won't let you log a name, you'll need to get different logging software. As you go into the contest, because you have read the rules, you know it lasts for a specified period of time. If the contest lasts 24 hours, and the rules specify that you can only work a maximum of 16 hours, do the ergonomics of your station allow you to operate comfortably for 16 hours? Lastly, and from my perspective, probably the most important basic tenet is being both mentally and physically prepared for the contest. Do you have the confidence and mental fortitude to compete in the contest and still have fun at the same time? And just as important, are you physically up to operating for hours on end? Remember, it's not just going to be a strain on your body, but your voice too. Here is a photo of Tim Duffy, Kilo 3 Lima Romeo, standing in his big gun amateur radio station. A big gun station is a station equipped with massive towers, linear amplifiers, large antennas with enormous gain, and even multiple operators and operator positions. On the opposite side of the spectrum are QRP stations. These are stations that are operating with no more than 5 watts of power. In the middle are little pistol stations. These are stations operating with much less power than the big guns. Often little pistol stations operate at no more than 100 watts and also have limited antenna systems. Generally speaking, contest rules usually have delineations that equate to these types of stations. To operate in the QRP class, your station cannot operate over 5 watts. To operate as a low power station, you cannot exceed 100 watts output, what a lot of little pistol stations are like. Finally, a high power station is any station operating over 100 watts, like a big gun station operating with up to 1500 watts output. Knowing what you may be up against in a contest can help you decide what class you want to enter: QRP, low power, or high power. Other factors that often determine your class are the number of operators at your station, the type of antenna system you have, and the number of transmitters you are using. Don't put yourself in a class that you won't be able to compete in. But remember, you shouldn't lie either. Lying only cheats yourself and takes away from those who are abiding by the rules. Other factors to consider is if you can run assisted versus unassisted. Running assisted basically means you are using spotting software like DX Summit to advertise your call sign, location, and frequency so as to let other operators know who and where you are. Running unassisted means you are doing nothing to let other operators know your call sign, location, frequency, etc. Some contests do not allow you to run assisted, and in most contests, if there is an option, an operator will get more points running unassisted. Contesters operate in either search and pounce mode or running mode or some combination of both. In search and pounce mode or S&P mode, a contest operator is searching through the bands looking for a contact to make. In running mode, the contest operator is sitting on a specific frequency calling CQ, waiting for other operators to contact him. Now that I have gone over some of the basics of contesting, let me share with you some of the things I do that assist me during contesting. First, I use accessories that make it easier to operate my station. Next, I practice before the contest actually starts. Also, before the contest starts, I check the propagation conditions for the different bands. When logging, I use logging software specifically tailored to the contest I am working. I also develop a plan as to how I am going to operate during the contest. Before I submit my log, I check it for possible mistakes. And last but not least, after the contest, I look back at what I might have done better or things I should change to do better the next time. Now let's take a closer look at each of these topics. I use accessories that make it easier for me to operate my station. Granted, ease of operation is a relative term, but let me give you some examples from my own station. First, I use a set of lightweight headphones with a mic. The headphones allow me to have the received sound close to my ears so that I don't have to strain listening to an external speaker. At the same time, the headphones shut out outside noise that may interfere with my ability to hear a weak signal. Another accessory I use is a foot-activated push-to-talk or PTT switch. This kind of PTT switch, in combination with the mic on my headphones, completely frees my hands to log contacts, adjust my radio settings, or take that sip of water without the worry of having to work a hand mic. Newer transceivers usually have a message recording capability. I use this function frequently during contesting. This function allows you to record a message, then play it back over the air. During a contest, you are always repeating specific phrases. This record playback function allows you to play back your call and/or response during a contest, thus saving your vocal cords some unnecessary time on the air. Many newer transceivers also have a spectrum scope and waterfall display. Such displays can quickly give you visual cues as to where a strong signal is on the band and show you if a band has good propagation. Practice makes perfect. At least that's the mindset I have going into the contest. So I practice operating as if I were in the contest before the contest actually starts. I ensure all my equipment is operating as efficiently as it can. I open up my logging software. I practice making QSOs and logging contacts just as if I was in the contest. Part of this practice making QSOs is ensuring that your cadence and modulation are consistent throughout, especially when you are running, that is, sitting on a frequency and calling CQ. Those attempting to reach you during a contest will get used to your style if you remain consistent. If you change your modulation and cadence, it will only make it harder for you to work through a pileup, and it also will likely frustrate those trying to reach you. Making adjustments and/or corrections during practice will keep you from wasting time for such things during the contest and costing you contact points. This practice helps me prepare for the real contest when it starts. Once you have decided on a contest that you want to participate in, the rules will tell you what bands you can operate on. Another thing I do is check the propagation conditions for the contest bands the day of the contest, but before the contest actually begins. This type of information can be found at hamqsl.com, amongst other places. Propagation information may be able to guide you as to what bands to focus on. Maybe you thought 10 meters would be a good band to start on because your contest starts during daylight hours, but then you check the propagation for 10 meters and it is poor. You might want to rethink what band you start out on. Despite what the scientific propagation conditions state, I still make a quick check of the particular band just to be sure. Again, this is something you can do before the actual contest starts. The logging software I use for my own personal log, as well as for contests, is software from N3FJP. N3FJP makes easy-to-use personal amateur radio logging software as well as contest-specific logging software. The contest logs are specific to the requirements of each individual contest. That is, there are different logs for the different contests. If your transceiver has the ability to interface with your computer, this software can read the band, frequency, and mode in which you are operating. The cost of this software is $59.99, but for me this was a small price to pay for the convenience it provides. The price also includes updates for life. After I have decided to participate in a contest, I develop a plan as to how I will operate. Will I search and pounce, or will I be running? Or will I use a combination of tactics? From experience, I have generally found that when operating in a contest that is just on one band, as in the case of the 10-meter contest, running, that is, sitting on a single frequency and calling CQ, is better than search and pounce operations. Running also seems to work out better for the state QSO party contests. Contest-like events, such as Winter Field Day and Summer Field Day, are also conducive to running, although search and pounce can work as well. Your plan should also map out what bands you are going to operate on during what hours of the contest. Generally speaking, 10 and 15 meters are better during daylight hours. But remember, the propagation conditions you checked might tell you those bands are closed during the times you might ordinarily think they would be open. When making your plan of operations during the contest, it is important to have an end goal in mind. Determine what that is. Do you just want to work a specified number of hours and then quit, being satisfied with what you did in that amount of time? Or do you want to reach a minimum number of contacts, say 100, and then quit? Maybe the contest you have entered will involve possible contacts with DX entities. Maybe your goal is to make contact with at least 3 DX entities that you don't currently have. If the contest goes on for an extended period, I also plan for breaks. Some contests require that breaks must be for at least 30 minutes. Deciding to take breaks in such contests means losing out on at least 30 minutes of contacts. Do you want to do that? Other contests don't have such restrictions. You'll need to factor in the rules as well as your personal well-being to determine how many breaks and for how long they are in determining this part of your plan. Going into a contest, I keep the 3 P's in mind. What are the 3 P's? The 3 P's are perseverance, persistence, and patience. Perseverance is the ability to keep going in the contest no matter the barriers. It is likely that you may receive no answers to your CQ calls for 30 to 45 minutes when you just start running at the beginning of a contest. Don't let this dissuade you, especially if the band you are on has good propagation. When searching and pouncing, you will get into pileups. Don't let these pileups deter you unless you find you are spending too much time trying to make the contact. You must weigh the amount of points you'll make in the contest by making the contact versus how many contacts you may have lost because you sat in the pileup. It's a balancing act that you will have to learn and get comfortable with on your own terms. Persistence has to do with time. You must devote time to the contest if you want to make a lot of contacts. It will be a relief when you do make a rare contact after being in a pileup, but you can't ease up. You must keep going in an effort to make up for the contacts you lost out on by staying in the pileup. The same is true if you have been calling CQ for a while with no response. You will have to try to make up the contacts lost over that time. Time usually is your enemy in a contest. You have to keep going as fast as you can without making mistakes. Patience throughout the contest is important. Patience is the ability to work through a situation without getting flustered or frustrated. Be patient enough to ensure you are getting all the contest exchange information correct. Ensure you have logged a contact correctly. If there is a pileup on your station, again, be patient. Work through it as fast as you accurately can and in a way that assures those trying to reach you that you will get to everyone. Patience does not mean to slow down necessarily, although you may need to adjust your speed depending on the situation. The first contest I worked was the ARRL Rookie Roundup Single Sideband Contest in April of 2022. The Rookie Roundup Contest is for those receiving their first amateur radio license in the current year or the previous 3 years, regardless of license class. It is a 6-hour event. Rookies exchange information with as many other stations as possible on the 80, 40, 20, 15, and 10 meter HF bands. I ended up coming in first in the New England W1 call area with just 128 points. As I recall, this was only about 38 contacts. That works out to an average of about 6 contacts per hour. Do you have the perseverance, persistence, and patience to be on your radio for 6 hours and make less than 40 contacts? I did, and I feel pretty good about coming in first in New England. It was this first success that has led me to participate in many phone contests since. You finally reached the end of the contest. Now you need to submit your log according to the rules for the contest. But before you do that, you should check your log as best you can for any errors. In most contests, you get penalized for log errors. Some of these errors include contacting the same station on the same band. That's usually not allowed. Entering a bad call sign is another error that will cost you points. The N3FJP contest logging software I use warns you of duplicate call signs at the time you enter them, so you should not be making that mistake if you are using that software. Other mistakes that you may be able to pick up on before you submit your log are typos. For example, perhaps a contact you made was with Kilo Zero Juliet Zulu, but instead on your log you entered Kilo Oscar Juliet Zulu. This is a mistake you can correct, and you should correct before submitting your log. Harder mistakes to catch are transpositions. Let's look at Kilo Zero Juliet Zulu again. What if you entered Kilo Zero Zulu Juliet? You might not catch that error. The fact of the matter is that you will make mistakes, but the point here is to try and correct as many of those errors as you can before you submit your log, so you will get fewer penalty points deducted from your score. In the latest contest I entered where I know the results, the North American QSO Party phone contest, where I came in first in Maine, I submitted a log with 169 contacts and a raw score of 11,154 points. My final score after being checked by the contest organizers was 10,496 points. Obviously, I submitted some errors, but they weren't enough to keep me from coming in first in Maine. Over the time I have worked contests since the first rookie roundup, I tried to glean lessons learned after each one. I try to use what I learn in the next contest, and if there were mistakes, I try to avoid them in the future as well. Let's take a tour of my shack right now. It's down in the basement of my house. I'm going to walk around here so you can see the ergonomics of my station and my setup. As you can see, it's a L-shaped desk setup. Again, you want to be sure that you can be comfortable operating for long periods of time. So this is how I have my station set up. This may not be the ideal setup for you, but this is, I wanted to give you an idea of how I'm operating. This is the chair that I use. It's very comfortable. Again, I've operated for many hours on end at this station with these ergonomics. I also mentioned some other ease of operation accessories that I use. I mentioned the foot PTT switches. Here is a view of those. I have 3 of them, and they are connected with the various sets of headphones that I have here at my station. And that brings up the other thing that I mentioned for ease of operation, were the use of headphones. These are the headphones that I use primarily for my got the cord hooked on something here, that I use for my contests. Here's a close-up of these headphones. I'm holding them and operating the camera at the same time, but you can see that they're light and they have a microphone right attached to them. And as I said, they're connected to one of those foot PTT switches, so it leaves my hands free to be able to operate the controls on my radio, as well as log on my computer or do anything else I might have to do at my station without having to worry about activating a PTT switch in a handheld mic. So let's look at this radio here. This is the one I'm going to be focusing on. This is the one that I use in my contests frequently. It's an HF radio, 100 watts. It's a Yaesu FT710. I had mentioned the record playback ability of this radio. I have recorded messages in this radio that I can transmit during a contest in order to save my voice from having to repeat certain things over and over again. Another thing in my station here is this display, external display. Right now I have this display hooked up to this radio. What's on my radio display is also on my external display. So to activate one of these pre-recorded messages, all I have to do is click on this number 2 message that I have in the radio. Oh, I just lost my mouse for some reason. I've got a mouse hooked up to my radio and it's being cantankerous, but here we go. Let me turn on the external speaker so you'll be able to hear what this sounds like.
CQ contest, Alpha 3, Hotel Delta contest.
So again, when I'm running in a contest, that is, I'm sitting on a frequency calling CQ, rather than having to verbalize that through my mic over and over again, I can just hit this pre-recorded message that gets transmitted out over the air.
CQ contest, Alpha 3, Hotel Delta contest. CQ contest, Alpha 3, Hotel Delta contest.
So over the course of many, many hours, you can save your vocal cords a bit by using this pre-recorded message ability. Similarly, if I'm calling CQ here and all of a sudden I get a pileup and I'm having to log a lot of calls that are coming in, I want to let those waiting in the pileup know when I'm ready for the next call. So rather than having to say my call sign in QRZ, I've got that message pre-recorded as well.
Alpha 3, Hotel Delta, QRZ.
And then the people trying to reach me can try again. So again, this saves your voice from having to keep broadcasting this over your microphone. Now, if I'm in search and pounce mode, I want to be giving out my call sign. So I also have that pre-recorded in here. And if my mouse will cooperate, here we go. No, it just disappeared. Sorry about this. There we go.
Alpha 3, Hotel Delta.
Again, giving out my call sign when I'm in search and pounce mode.
Alpha 3, Hotel Delta.
And again, over the course of many hours, if you keep having to say that every time you're in search and pounce mode, your voice is going to get tired sooner than not. So
Alpha 3, Hotel Delta.
That saves your voice, and hopefully the station that you're trying to reach will hear you, and then you can start talking on your mic. So that's the record playback function. Let's move over here to another display that I have real quickly. This is a gray line map. This lets you visually see quite quickly what areas of the world are in daylight and what are in nighttime. This could help you decide what bands you want to operate on, because generally speaking, there are some bands that are better during daylight hours than nighttime hours. So I have this up just as a reminder where it's daylight and where it's night and what bands I might want to go to. Now let's look at the logging software. This is the logging software from N3FJP that is specifically for the North American single sideband sprint contest. This logging software has all the spaces that you need to fill in that are required during the contest exchange for this specific contest. It has where you need to enter the call sign, the serial number, the name of the operator, and their state or province. So I've got to hold my camera here, so I'm going to enter this. So I want to show you how this works. I won't be typing as quickly as I normally do because, again, I'm holding the camera with one hand and going to be entering the information with the other. So let's say we are talking to KA1XYZ. So we have their call sign. And let's say they give you the serial number of 12. So you enter that. And let's say they give you their name, which is Ben. And they tell you they're in New York. You abbreviate their state, New York. So one of the objects of this contest is, because it's North America, is for you to make contacts in all of North America. So the states are listed over here and the provinces. And this tells you, hey, that's a new multiplier you've gotten. So then you give him the information that you have to give him for his log. And it's all right here in this logging program. My call sign, AA3HD. The serial number I have to give him, which is 005, my name, and my state. So after you've verified the exchange, then you hit enter, and it gets automatically entered into the program. As you can see, the serial number I gave him, 5, his call sign, the serial number he gave me, his name, his state, we're in North America, the date, the time, the band, the mode, and because I can interface this radio with this computer program, it also gives the frequency. But you do not have to have a radio that interfaces with this software for it to work. You will have to manually, let me turn off the external speaker here. We got some extra noise I'm fighting with. As I said, you don't have to have a radio that interfaces with this software because most contests do not require the exact frequency, just the band. But so if you don't have a radio that interfaces with the software, you're going to have to manually enter what band you're on, and that's pretty easy. You can go up here to band, and let's say you're operating on 40, and then it should change to 40. Why didn't it change to 40? Oh, I know why. Because my radio is attached, is overriding this manual changing of the band. But that's how you would do it if your radio does not interface with a computer. The other things that software can do is it can convert your file to an ADIF file format. This is a very common format for amateur radio logs. It can also convert your log to a Cabrillo file format. This is the file format that most contest organizers want you to submit your file in electronically. So there's that aspect of this program. Also, I mentioned that this program will protect you from putting in duplicate calls. So let's try it and see if it works. Kilo, Oscar. Okay, I'm just started these letters, and it's showing me down here possible duplicates. So let's put in 4 now. So Kilo, Oscar, 4. Now let's put in Foxtrot. Okay, now bigger warning comes up here. See, possible duplicate. Here's the one. Here's the station. If I'm listening and I hear, okay, it's Kilo Oscar 4 Foxtrot Victor, I don't want to put that in because that's a duplicate. I can see that. I can clear and move on to some other station. The other thing is that this software will keep track of your time. As you can see, I've had this log going for 2 hours, 25 minutes, and 9 seconds. This is important because in some contests, even though they may be going for 24 hours, you may only be allowed to operate 16 hours. This little counter down here will keep track of how long you've been operating in the contest. So you don't want to exceed the 16 hours if that's the limitation, and this clock will help you keep track of that. You can also stop tracking your operations time. This will stop your log from tracking how long you've been in the contest, and many contests have a minimum requirement of a 30-minute break. So this will also help you ensure that you don't restart your log in less than 30 minutes. If you do, you're going to get some penalty points. So I think that's about it for my station. I hope that gave you some valuable information. You got to see a little bit how I operate, what my radios are, and I hope you learned something from it. That's it for now.
Well, that about wraps it up. I've gone over some contest basics with a focus on HF phone contests. I've given you some insights about the things that I do to enhance my operations in a contest, and I have given you a brief look at my station. Hopefully, I have been able to impart some information you can use in your contest endeavors. This is Alpha 3 Hotel Delta, QRT.